I grew up in many places because my dad, he's a diplomat, so I had to follow him around on his tours. Every time we move, it's goodbye to my friends, and as I got older, it was harder to make friends. I started playing games at the age of 8 or 9. Our country had one of the first esports scene in the world, and even as a kid, there were professional gamers who were making big bucks and getting a lot of airtime, and the more and more I tried, the more and more it seemed like I could be one of those people. And by the time I was 22, I was playing competitively. At the age of 24 is when I was called to the Army service. It was hard for me as a gamer because I thought I was playing the best just before I had to go into the military. So after I was done with the military, I spent the following years trying to recover from my absence of gaming. It was kind of like recovering from an injury. It happened and you can't really do much about it. I tried my best to get in shape again. Towards the end of my service, March recruited me. Even though I had been not in the scene for 2 years, like, he had faith in me as a teammate. And then we played together for a year, and that's when we split up and I moved to MVP Hot 6. My role on the team as a captain, it's to make sure that everyone on my team is given a chance to play their A game. So I want to give them confidence. I think that's my biggest job as a captain. I hope TI5 will be the tournament that proves to me that my team can be one of the best. But it would basically be a statement for myself that I can achieve anything as long as I don't give up.
There we are then. MVP Hot 6, the final 16th team that we're talking about today. And of course, in our 6th and final match of a very long day. The players are waiting backstage to enter the arena. I'm sure they'll get a raucous applause and cheers from the crowd when they do so. And they'll go head to head with a former champion in the form of Ferrari and Co. in IG. So, big game for both these two teams, as we've said many times before. On these best of ones, they've proved to be exactly what they thought would be. We've seen some spectacular play, very exciting, and also we've seen a bit of a crush actually from Virtus Pro as well. And just to update you, it's probably worth taking a quick look at the bracket as well, just to show you how it's all shaping up. Empire, of course, going through a little bit earlier on. Cloud9 dropping down to the lower bracket. They'll take on Vici Gaming as well. That's going to be a fantastic game when that one happens. And at the bottom half, you'll see that Fnatic, of course, now dumped out of the competition by Virtus Pro. We've got that last final spot available in the next round. We'll have lost 4 teams today. It's been a brutal day for many reasons, not just for Seb, but also for 4 teams as well. But in all seriousness, as a fan, it's been kind of exciting as well. And I almost feel bad to say that because you're losing teams and great players in amongst that. Alan, how do you feel about it?
I mean, it's just the reality of the sport. And, I mean, if you look at all the great tournaments in all sports, I mean, March Madness is my favorite time of year, other than TI now. And it's just an inevitable aspect of it that your favorite teams and your favorite players, you know, all but one of them are going to be going home. But IG, you want to talk about championship teams. Yeah. I mean, this is one. And really, unfortunately, throughout this competition, we've seen great individual players from their team members. We have not seen great play as a team from IG. We're still looking for that at this event. Yeah,
still waiting for it to happen. Hot 6, MVP Hot 6, came through the qualifiers ahead of their sister team, of course, so we expected perhaps more from them. But in Group B, they were actually largely disappointing. Didn't pick up a single win either. Went 0-2-5, actually the worst record of both groups it seems almost impossible that they could overcome such a strong team as IG, even though they've not had the best of tournaments either. They've got to pull out something magical tonight.
To me, if they somehow, like, if they can play somehow as well as they did in the qualifiers, then they have a shot at winning tonight. But if they play like they did in the group stage, I think it's going to be very tough. It's going to be very hard for them.
What are the keys, Malini, for IG to show us their true colours?
I think they can't be caught off guard by Hot Six's picks. They picked, I think, Tinker one time. They picked Huskar one time, which got countered by a Timbersaw. But still, they're not afraid to go outside of the box. And I think they're actually the most likely team out of the 8 to go outside of the box. And you were talking about fans. The IG fan runs deep. The Burning, Ferrari, these names are legends in the Eastern scene. If you think Dendy is big here, these guys are bigger, are just mega stars over there.
Well, and for good reason. I mean, you know, these are those players you listed. They're among the players that you don't have to know a single thing about Dota. And you watch Ferrari play mid, and you know you're watching a great player. There's just absolutely no doubt. I mean, these guys, when you look at their contributions to the metagame, to item builds, these are the guys that players around the world are copying.
Yeah, they've definitely shaped the way that Dota 2 has been played over the years. I guess the key is, and we're talking about this quite a lot today, and we'll continue to talk about it throughout the week, we're still searching for the second title from someone. And now they're all, you know, there's 12 of them. They're all dotted around different teams now. So it's even harder to keep track of where they are. But there are, again, an opportunity within this team. But this is going to be so tough, Wagger, isn't it? Going through that lower bracket?
It's going to be very tough for IG, and it's tough for me to watch this because I'm pretty emotionally invested as I'm a former teammate of Jarek's, and I know I met with Sing Sing earlier here in the arena as well, so we'll both, of course, be cheering for Jarek's to take
having an old boys reunion.
Yeah, pretty much. No, I hope for MVP Hot 6 to pull out the play, as Sebastian said, from the qualifiers. They looked strong back then, and in the group stage they struggled.
And by the way, Jarex has actually played really, really well. Like, he's had some very nice games. And despite the lumps that they've taken, he's among the leaders in assists per 35 minutes, both in the qualifiers and in the group phase. I feel like actually he and Heen have played well enough for this team to win, but their core play has been really inconsistent. Sunby has had some really, really rough games, and sort of the big plays from Forev that we saw in the qualifiers just haven't been there.
What's been the biggest difference for you, Wagger, between, you know, what looked like a strong team? Maybe you could actually come and represent Korea and go far, but looking so weak in the groups. What's the difference?
I think it's just, you know, level of preparation. Like, they came into the qualifiers. I talked to him about this. They felt like they were peaking into the qualifiers there and just doing really well. And a lot has changed since then. It's a completely different game just looking back to the C qualifiers and now. Yeah. So it's all about adjusting, adapting to the current state of things. Even if there's no patch, teams just change how they approach the game.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, we'll talk about this tomorrow when we do complexity. That the thing that's impressed me so much about that team is that they showed up to this event a vastly better team than the team that won the Americas qualifiers. You just haven't seen the same improvement from Hot 6. And in this environment where these players are so good, these teams are working so hard, if you're not improving, you're going to lose.
Yeah, and the differences, just to put it into context, are minute differences of improvement. We're talking about players who are probably at 99%, all of them, and then it's like a 0.5% sway between a great player and an average top player. And so a 0.1 improvement is actually quite a big improvement, isn't it?
The bigger improvement is, I mean, more measurable as a team, like how you figure things out. So as an individual player, I think many of the players here at TI who have been knocked out already are good enough to win. It's just, you know, team game.
We are still waiting for the players to be in the booths and getting ready for the draft. But while we're doing that, why don't we take a look at tomorrow's state of play, because we do have some phenomenal games. Alan already mentioned the fact that we have complexity in action. Now, for me, as an esports fan for the last 15 years or so, that first match, Evil Geniuses versus Complexity, is absolutely amazing. I get goosebumps thinking about how cool that is. We'll tell you why it's so cool tomorrow as well, but suffice to say, without ruining it and without spoilers, there is plenty of needle between these two organisations and the sets of players, so it's absolutely brilliant. Team Secret are also involved tomorrow, but now it's back to the arena where the teams are coming out into the key arena to take place in the booths for the final time this evening, our last match and the final game of lower brackets, because this is the last best of one, the last chance saloon for both sets of teams.
Man, and it just makes me emotional just watching this kind of footage and realizing, I mean, this might be the last time that you see Burning on a TI stage. It might be the last time you see Chuan or Ferrari. I mean, these guys are legends of the game, and their contributions will live on, but they're playing for their lives tonight.
Yeah, enjoy, appreciate, cheer loudly, because it might be the last time you get to do so for your heroes. They'll get settled in. We'll get ready for the draft very shortly. We've still got a little bit of time to talk about MVP, Hot 6 and IG as well. With relations to the group stages, was it... No, actually, let me rephrase this. It was a surprise to see IG not do so well.
Well, IG had their issues before, and I mean, they did manage to take a series over C9 at ESL, but just increasingly in recent months, they haven't gelled as a team. And you know, in the past, I've kind of picked on Luo's inconsistency a little bit on the off lane, but really increasingly, this has looked like a collection of insanely talented players, but not a team, right? I want to ask Merlini that.
I think they admitted that, though, as well, didn't they?
Absolutely.
They said they made the investment, they brought the great players in, it hasn't worked.
Right. I wanted you brought something up earlier, though, Ben, that I really want to explore a little deeply. I feel like Hot 6 have to go outside the box to win here. I feel like unless they show up a drastically different team than we've seen so far at this event, I feel like they have to pull out something that we haven't seen before. If you're drafting in that mentality, especially in a best of one, what are you looking to exploit against IG?
I think you try and exploit their tendency to put Burning on a super farm-heavy hero. They tend to Naga a lot, not really this patch, but over history they have. And, of course, Anti-Mage. I think Anti-Mage has been a pretty popular pick today, or at least a hero that's been looked at as a very safe strategy to close out a best of one. It's like, okay, the other team, you have to come at us. You have to push high ground, break it before 30, 40, and keep Anti-Mage down for that entire duration, or you're going to lose. I mean, Na'Vi didn't end up winning, but still, they had a very, very good shot. And, again, Burning has a set. He is one of the most legendary anti-mages in the game. And I think, I don't know, I really like the Tinker for MP. It didn't work out that well for them in the group stage, but I think it's a hero that they can defend long enough and out late game IG, which is their best bet, I think.
Okay. Yeah, was definitely curious to see them play Tinker as well because of the itemization that they went for. Early Aghanims was something that I don't know if we have seen Aghanims at all.
Yeah, it was only like the third or fourth time, and I think the other couple were, I'm sure Knox will pop something up if that hero gets picked, but it was a very unusual build, and I kind of liked the concept in a way in that game.
I mean, it was interesting, and it could have worked, but it didn't. And at the point where it didn't, everyone that I talked to is like, yeah, if you went Hex, maybe you would have won by now. Yeah. It's so hard to go for an innovation builds because when you lose, you look so stupid.
Right.
If it works, you look like a genius.
And the contrast here, of course, is that MVP, in theory, can go and be a bit crazy with this stuff, but I'm not sure that IG can afford to do anything crazy right now. They need to be pretty safe, pretty sensible, and do what they can do.
I mean, I don't think they need to. I mean, quite honestly, you're looking at this game as IG, and you're the better team. I think on paper there's just no arguing that. And I think you go out there and you play your game and you maybe expect them to do something a little bit, but I expect a very conservative draft out of IG, not giving too much away early and saving some of those counter picks for the end.
Okay. What sort of picks are we looking at, do you think, for IG?
I'm not sure about the picks, but like the way they need to approach that game, they need to me, rely on